Hello folks, this is the Tractor Doctor again. I got a little 240 Massey Ferguson here in my shop. Blowed the head gasket. Started blowing water out the exhaust. Filled the cylinder full of water. I'll go over some stuff, what to look for, what to do when you go to change out a head gasket or just generally service the top end of an engine. It's a little 3-cylinder Perkins diesel, and I'm not meaning this video to be a step-by-step video on how to do this particular application, meaning it more as a general universal video of tips and tricks that I have learned over the years, what to look for and how to go about doing the procedure in a kind of generic fashion. Talk about the failure first, analyzing the failure, how to determine what the problem is. This one, fella it belongs to brought it to me, said that it was running when he parked it. When he went back to get it, he went to try to crank it, and it was like the engine was locked, and he checked the water in the radiator, and the water was low. So he assumed that the water must have gotten into the engine, brought it here to the shop, and he turned out to be correct. I removed the fuel injector, all the fuel injectors, and sure enough the cylinders had water in them. Also, another side note, if you ever have one blows the head gasket and fills the cylinder with water, don't let it set before you get the water out very long, because it can rust and pit the cylinders and rust the piston to the cylinder. At the very minimum, you want to take the injectors and the spark plugs, injectors or spark plugs out, whichever one. Spin the engine over and blow as much of the water out as you can, and put some oil down in the cylinders if you're going to let it set for a long period of time before you do anything with it. We talk about analyzing the failure. This one, blowing water out the injector hole, so it was obvious that the head gasket was blowed. Upon pulling the head off, you could see where it had burnt through the fire ring, and once it burnt through the fire ring, it started eating the gasket up until these two water jackets, one on each side. Here's my fingers in one of the water jackets. There's another one over here on this side. It burnt through to those water jackets, and once it burnt through, it had a path for the water to come directly in on top of the piston. Also, it set a couple of days after it done it, and all the water that was above the level of the deck was in the oil pan. As it run through, run down into the cylinder, and run past the rings, and went down into the oil pan. So you want to be sure to change the oil, anything like that, anytime you do any kind of major repair like this. We got everything apart, got everything cleaned up, got the deck cleaned up. You can just take a little bit of light sandpaper or Scotch-Brite or something, clean everything up and get it good and smooth for the new gasket to go back. One thing you want to do that a lot of folks neglect to do is take you a tap and some cutting oil and clean out each one of these little holes where the head bolts go in. You can use a tap or a thread chaser, either one. Run in there and clean those holes out real good. That'll make your bolts go better, because the last thing you want to have happen is to be doing something like this and have one of the bolts gall up in the head, and then have to figure out some way to put an insert in it or retap the hole or anything like that. And also, if you got any studs, we'll take a die and clean those threads up and get all the crud off of them. Got the head over here on the workbench. We cleaned everything up, washed it up, cleaned the deck up, and this particular one here happens to have the lifters, the solid tappet lifters, and they come off in the head itself, and they run directly against the camshaft. There's no push rods. valve push rods, but each application is different. Most applications will have the lifters down in the block and then have a set of valve push rods that come up through the head. But irregardless of what the application is, pretty well straightforward on that. And we'll go over the valve adjustments a little bit further along in the video. It's probably going to be at least 2 parts or maybe 3 parts video, but I'll cover valve adjustment also. Got the new head gasket here, and it's a 3-piece design. It's got a copper outer coat on each side. Another thing I like to do with these type of gaskets, now if you're using like a Felpro to a Permatorque type gasket or something, it's probably not a good idea to do it. But with these either a solid gasket or these 3-piece with the metal shim type gaskets, I always use this here copper coat. Spray a light coat of it on the gasket on each side, and that improves sealing of the gasket. They make this in spray and in brushable format, and I ain't never really liked the brushable kind because it seems like to me it's hard to get an even coat. I get this in the spray can, and you just rattle it like a paint can, mix it up good, just spray a good even coat on each side of the gasket. But to do a job like this, the main thing that you're going to need is a decent set of torque wrenches. And I've got these, caught them at Sears a while back on sale. My older ones were, I had the old micrometer adjustment type wrenches, and I've had them for years, and they was getting pretty sloppy and wore out, and I wasn't real sure how accurate they were. I went by Sears and they had these on sale, and I upgraded and got me some new ones. But even an old beam type torque wrench would be fine for something like this, as long as you hadn't beat it up and bent up the beam or anything like that. But these micrometer adjust or digital wrenches like I got here are a lot nicer. But if you're just doing a one-time job in your garage at home, probably be just as well off with a $25 beam torque wrench from down at the Sears or any other place that sells tools and stuff like that. You're also going to want a good service manual, and this is the I&T manual for this particular tractor, and you can usually pick those up at Tractor Supply. You can order them direct from the company, and there's a lot of other good manuals out there. These manuals here are a lot cheaper than a factory manual, and they're not as comprehensive as a factory manual, but they've usually got the majority of the information that you're going to need in the manual. As long as you got a good idea of what you're doing to start with, the manual will pretty well guide you in the right direction. And also, I'd like to say that I'm not a paid endorser of any of these products that I'm talking about here, but I can say that I've used them and I'm satisfied with the results, and I'm just passing on what information that I know about them, and I'm in no way promoting their products. And that's pretty much it on that end. We got everything cleaned up. Gonna go ahead and get ready to put the head back on it and torque the bolts. And this is going to conclude part 1 of the video. And I'm gonna go ahead and get the head back down on there, get the bolts torqued, and I'll do a second video and go a little bit more in depth on that part of it. But if anybody's got any questions or anything, just feel free to ask. If there's anything you feel like I can help you with, don't hesitate to ask a question. And I'm doing these videos just because I've gained a lot of information from YouTube. There's a lot of people that I've seen on there that have put out quality videos, and it's kind of inspired me to put a series of videos on there about stuff that I know about and how to do things that I do in my shop here. that, you know, I kind of enjoy making the videos and enjoy doing this kind of work.